you go. So we're recording the meeting, and we're posting the slides and the agenda and the minutes on the IBC website at caba.org/IBC. After that administrative work, we'll be doing a research update by a couple of research projects that we're doing through the IBC, one on the BACs and the other one on AI and predictive maintenance. And then Ken Wax will be giving an update on the white paper subcommittee after the keynote presentation from Aircuity. And then there's some new business. Dan and Mark will be doing a quick 5-10 minute presentation in the new business section, some announcements of some past and upcoming events, and then adjournment. With that, I'll pass it off to Brian to lead the rest of the meeting and chair the meeting and talk a little bit about the IBC. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today and appreciate your time, and look forward to a great meeting today. So we'll call this to order, and then definitely welcome everybody today. The IBC, if you're not familiar with it, there's a good information here on the slide that kind of gives more information what it is. But really, the IBC focuses in on the intelligent building space and through research, right, and looking at new systems and automation and support of those research into the next generation of intelligent buildings. So it really is a great way to get research and a great way to really focus on intelligent buildings. So make sure you check that out. You got the website there, CABA.org, /IBC, and also check out the rest of CABA. A lot of great research there. And as we continue to move this industry towards intelligent buildings, it's really a great group to be able to get research done. So I really appreciate what everybody does. You can see on the screen here what the leadership of the IBC's makeup is. Myself as a chair of the group. We have 3 vice chairs. We got Harsha, Robert, and Bob, all very well placed in their time from their companies to help us out and move this IBC forward. So I really appreciate all their time and everything they do for us. So next, we're going to move on to the administrative duties. The first thing that we have to do, we have the meeting, the meeting minutes notes from July 22nd. We need to approve. So there's a link there for those. So definitely want to have those reviewed and approved. So first, we'll call for a motion to approve the minutes. Have anybody that'll make a motion for us?
I move David Katz to approve the minutes.
Thank you. How about, do I hear any seconds out there?
Second, I'll second it. Bob Lane.
All right. Well, thank you. Do I hear any opposed for approving the minutes? All right. Hearing none out there, we will. The motion passes and the minutes are approved. So thank you for that. And now we'll move on to the business we have here in front of us. So we're going to turn this over to Harsha and Greg to talk about the research update.
Thanks, Brian. I'm going to provide an update on the research project, AI and predictive maintenance in intelligent buildings. First of all, on behalf of CABA, I would like to thank the funders of the IBC research project. This research topic was selected by CABA Board of Directors in earlier this year, February. An RFP was sent out to the CABA member research firms, and we received 4 bids. CABA narrowed the bid down to top 2, and the initial funders made the final selection of Harbor Research. The purpose of this research is to examine various aspects of predictive maintenance and artificial intelligence in the intelligent building industry. Research will also develop recommendations for stakeholders on how they can best position themselves in evolving intelligent building landscape. This new research will address many of the challenges and opportunities that exist around artificial intelligence. It will utilize both qualitative, which is in-depth interviews, and quantitative consumer and industry questionnaires, methods to provide actionable data relevant to state of the market, key industry players, business opportunities, technical barriers, and opportunities, future market direction, issues, use cases, and industry recommendations. There is still time to become a funder and get this research. There are 18 funders on the project so far. And you can see that in the logo in this slide. Thanks again to all the organizations who have funded. This is over in 130K worth of research project, and we have had a 5K, 10K, and 15K funding depending upon the funding level. The 5K is a pre-buy, get the full research of the final webinar. And 10K is most popular. You also get to be on the steering committee and get special webinars specifically for your organization. This level can also participate in think tank webinar hosted by research firm once the research is complete. The 15K research funding will include all the benefits of the 5K and 10K, and also would get a case study incorporated in the research, which will be shared in the executive summary. The steering committee has received the first draft, and the project is expected to complete in November. With that, thank you, and over to you, Greg.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Harsha. This is this particular research. If you are interested, feel free to reach out to myself at walker@caba.org, and can provide you a little bit more information. So we had the full research can be had for as little as $5,000, and it's $130,000 of research on the topic. So we did just send it to the steering committee. Well, we're actually going to be sending it out this week, and CABA reviewed the first draft and is making sure that those edits are completed, and we're in line, and we're on schedule to have this completed in November timeframe. And if you're on any one of these organizations that are on funders and you want to get the research when it's completed, send me an email as well. I'll make sure that you're definitely included in that the email when it's dispersed out to the group. Is there any questions on this one before we go to the next? The next research topic or research project that was brought forward by the IBC was originally proposed by Raphael Imhoff from Siemens, one of the co-chairs of our board, in that there was a need for market sizing research in BACs, so building automation control systems in the space, and there was currently no avenue for any organization in the control space to get accurate market sizing data from their organization. They only had their organization. They didn't have market share from the others, and at least not broken down to the granularity that they're looking for. So what we did is we reached out to BISRA, who does a lot of market sizing research projects in a collaborative nature, one of the few ones, and we did an invitation-only research project where we did a short list of 9 the key companies we want to have in the project, and 8 of them decided to join the research, and we've had several deliverables, and we've collected and shared out money market sizing data reports for the particular project. And this one's an annual project. It's slightly different than the other ones, and it's also invitation only. So we'll be continuing. The idea is to continue this on going forward into 2022 and onwards, and in hopes maybe even to break it down into a couple different subsectors of market sizing in the intelligent building space and expand it out a little bit. But we'll be doing a review near the end of the year to see what the feasibility of doing that is, and to see if there is an option for other organizations to join. So once again, this is just an ongoing project, and we provide deliverables on a quarterly basis on this particular project. And I guess the next topic here is the keynote presentation before we get to you, Ken, and I'll pass this off to Bob Allen to moderate this, and if Dan, if you could send me that invite for the control, and maybe I'll try to grant control over to you for the slides in the meantime.
Just did.
Okay.
Great. Thank you for teeing this up. We have a great presenter today, Dan Deal, to talk about intelligent ventilation in the age of enhanced carbon footprint goals and COVID. All very relevant, that's for sure. Because there is a worldwide resurgence of carbon reduction or even net zero carbon goals for companies, universities, and government agencies. Additionally, Recent UN data found that 28% of global greenhouse emissions are from building operations. Coupled with the emphasis on the environmental impact of buildings is the continuing COVID-19 pandemic and the need for a healthy workplace. Intelligent ventilation is the most significant way to address both of these issues simultaneously by optimizing efficiency and the health and safety of occupants. Dan is CEO and president of Aircuity. He has over 25 years of industry expertise across a wide variety of vertical markets and disciplines in commercial and light industrial building markets. Prior to Aircuity, Dan led business development at Lutron Electronics, was a partner for 6 years with Synergy, and spent 11 years at Johnson Controls. Dan, take it away.
Thank you very much, Bob. Really appreciate the opportunity to present today. I always enjoyed the other presentations. And I hope I can live up to the challenge of providing a good presentation. But obviously, these are really topical points to talk about. So with 30 minutes, I'm going to go pretty quickly. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you good.
Okay,
Yep.
I can't drive this slide, so I requested control. Oh, there it goes. Is that me or is that you?
That's
Oh,
you.
me. Gotcha. Okay, I'm good now. Okay, so quick agenda here today. What's happening now? The mega trends, getting to net zero, the health and cognitive function drivers that we're seeing in the marketplace. Talk very quickly about what is accurate demand control ventilation, some of the lessons we learned over the last 2 years, and then some case studies and a roadmap for success. A little bit of a delay. Okay, so what's happening today? So the mega trends, and this is the more important part of the takeaways here. So sustainability and carbon reduction driven by ESG commitments from major corporations, higher education institutions, and even down to local state and government has dramatically increased over the last 2 years, and I would say even more significantly over the last 9 months. This is driving a movement towards electrifying buildings, although they're not, directly correlated. It's going to be a huge impact, and we're seeing, net zero, near net zero requirements as soon as 2025, or many organizations to 2030, and dollars behind those to address both existing infrastructure and new builds. And that goes coupled with obviously point number 2 with obviously what COVID drove was indoor air quality requirements across the entire built environment. We're seeing change in density in workplaces with the hybrid working environments, and this is going to be drive a need for, I think, the last just the bullet point there about AI, but much more flexible and intelligent built environments. There's been a large increase of both, I call them carrots and sticks, in terms of carbon penalties spreading. The significant ones in New York City, but now being adopted in Boston and DC and Denver and Pacific Northwest, et cetera. So, but you're also seeing that coupled with significant utility rebate incentives and a looming, that's my Apple Watch, a looming cost of carbon in many forms. So just coming off of the I2SL meeting about a month ago, about 50% or 60% of all the presentations addressed these issues in one form or another. And obviously building electrification was a big part of many discussions. The research boom, I kind of have been saying a lot that life sciences is back, having lived through it in the 90s. You're even seeing real estate investment trusts that were formerly dedicated to commercial office, repurposing spaces over to life sciences and research properties. So, and the life sciences industry as a whole is back and booming in a big way. And we're seeing a huge pickup of activity in that sector. Verifiable IAQ data. This is this is a slightly different point in terms of some of the requirements, but it's really about the communication of indoor air quality. And maybe in some respects, what the industry had done in the past was maybe a collection of the data for the facilities individuals, but now it's a much broader range of constituents that want access to that data and want insight as to what's happening. And then you're seeing the evolution, the importance, and obviously in healthcare and having, hopefully having healthcare not be a part of the problem in terms of when people visit there, the spread of these pandemics. And so there's been a lot of activity in that vertical market as well. Try three things usually just to try to drive the slide forward. Sorry. Anybody has a. Oh, there it goes. So there's a quick slide. The macro trends driving this, obviously better workplace outcomes and the net zero requirements, plus this technology improvement and adoption is really driving, I think, the future of the healthy and sustainable built environment. And that's really just a kind of a summation of all the stuff that we just talked about. These, I will point out that these are all in action. We are seeing activity with clients spending and allocating millions of dollars to address these and over millions and millions of dollars, I should say, over the last time. And that probably wasn't the case even as much as 2 years ago. The pressure from boards and senior leadership to actually achieve this and all the things that I just mentioned is really, you're seeing activity really kind of people putting the money in their where the mouths are and really starting to implement projects. The other point here is you're seeing just really changing outdoor and indoor conditions, and the outdoor environment, as we've all seen, unfortunately, is whether it be fires in Europe or in Australia or the West Coast, and those actually outdoor conditions, kind of the most recent Pac Northwest fire spreading across the entire United States, is a lot of customers that we work with 100% outside air systems, or just seeing major changes in the outdoor environment and wanting to verify that they're providing good indoor air conditions to their workforces and their constituents as well. And I think that's obviously an important part of this as well. We talked about the adaptiveness for higher variable occupancies. And there's that, I think the CABA function study that was just published is the third version of that. And you see a huge, which we learned through COVID, recent study on the impact and the importance of understanding particulate and specifically small particles now being included beyond just CO2. And lastly is just, if we're going to do this and do this correctly, we can't continue to have deferred maintenance be, continuing problem in the built environment. And so how do we address these, this changeover and also do it in a reliable way to have these buildings be maintained over the life of the building? Again, I apologize for the delay. It just takes 3 buttons. There it goes. So the next slide. There we go. So we just this was just mentioned by Bob in the outset, and this is really important. It's actually higher than 28% if we look at the embodied carbon, and so it's undoubtedly going to be a massive decade-long activity of the built environment to address carbon emissions from buildings. And so we're going to see continued investment and focus on net zero buildings. HVAC and ventilation obviously are a huge impact of this, as the lighting, having a former life in lighting for almost a decade, as lighting has gotten to be dramatically more efficient. The HVAC and ventilation now drive anywhere between 35 and 70% of the total energy usage. And in an office, maybe surprising to some, 70% in a lab is not uncommon. Reheat is often the #1 carbon mitigation benefit and it is the focus of many of the customers we deal with. And when you effectively control ventilation, you can dramatically reduce reheat, especially in these higher critical environments like ORs and research spaces. And again, buildings are going to need to be more dynamic. Occupancies are expected to be anywhere from 20 to 30% all the way up to their normal operating ranges, as we're now in these hybrid work environments. And we just are going to continue to need to eliminate waste from any older prescriptive and antiquated designs. I think we're going to see a lot more innovative technologies continue to address this issue. And I think the super positive, I'm really bullish on this opportunity in the built environment, is we're just seeing, a lot of activity in this area. And I think great opportunity for improvement, and the technologies actually have been out there in the marketplace for some time. And I think that's both with indoor air quality management and also getting to net zero. We've personally been involved in dozens of net zero projects around the globe. And we know that they're very achievable and possible with already with proven technologies. And you're going to see more microgrids and other on-site renewable sources continue to evolve. And so I think this is something that absolutely can be done. And the great news too is it can be done very economically, in some cases more so than some of these older designs. So really exciting to see some of the presentations I've just witnessed and some of the projects we've been involved with. And working on a project in Dubai, which is a 1 million square foot net zero project, Dubai Energy Water Authority, which is currently in construction, actually, that we're looking at. But these examples persist, and I'll give you some case studies at the end of this to show you more of what's actually happening in action. Next slide. So sorry, I may have jumped to. So this is a WSP consulting firm for the built environment, and these slides I'll go through pretty quickly, but you are seeing a lot of convergence on net zero. In the past, it's been a lot of different descriptions of that, and the terminologies starting to really sync up, and the commonalities across all the definitions are starting to converge, which is great. Great news. And I think also what's really neat here is that it really does start with many of the groups that are involved in CABA. I'm really familiar with building technology and how buildings operate. It really starts with that, the efficiency of the building and some of the systems that we control and operate traditionally. But we're also seeing that it's going to involve a lot of newer maybe disciplines that we haven't historically, when you look at the electrification side of buildings, maybe control companies and or some of the more traditional players have had less direct involvement with. We're starting to see that being really brought in when you look at the electrification of buildings. And I do see a lot of some of the Train Corporation, as an example, has an electrification division, and they're really focusing on that. And there's obviously many others out there. They're probably doing the same thing. It's just one that comes to mind because I know somebody that's involved with that. But you're really seeing a lot of focus on that. And so I think, again, this is going to be an evolution. It's going to occur over the next decade. And also, again, when you look at the on and off site renewables and the technologies there, they're going to be brought into play. Having and coupling in the intelligence with getting buildings really efficient is a key takeaway to this presentation. I can't stress enough that you really need to look at making a building as efficient as possible before you try to solve the supply side. We've been involved in saving $35–40 million of offsite renewables, solar as an example, by making buildings dramatically more energy efficient. In this one case, it was a large research institution, so it was heavily energy intensive. But the impact can be dramatic when you make buildings a lot more efficient at the outset, both existing and new. We're going to say on the next slide. So I don't know. Yeah. So the next slide. Sorry. So this is really, if you haven't seen this, the WHO, World Health Organization, just recently published this. And again, this talks about the health impacts before air quality. The impact of small particles is not only as it relates to the transmission of COVID, but also as it's just been recently reported by WHO and also recently reported in the CABA effect study. Time and time again, we're seeing the impact of small particles, whether it be outside air conditions related to just fires that I previously talked about, or due to pollution. The small particle measurement and effectively handling in the built environment is obviously now much more of a concern and becoming something that the general population and many constituents that we work with really want to understand and are trying to manage and mitigate as much as possible. The WHO talks here about really a little bit more about outside air pollution, but again, if not managed properly for the built environment, outside air pollution becomes inside air pollution. So really having an understanding of this and seeing the WHO come out on this is really important. And the next slide talks about I was very happy to see this is really just the alignment around the targets. So what does good indoor air quality look like? And this is supported by International Well Building Institute, as well as RESET, and now the WHO, really alignment around what does good indoor air quality look like. So I think that's a great convergence in the industry. So we really now know what does good air quality look like. And the cost is becoming better communicated, and I think really better understood by much higher level management and senior leadership in many of these organizations. And the cost now is known to be real, and that's both negative and positive. So positive on the cognitive effect study. So when you look at what's the productivity and worth and the health and wellness of having good employees be healthy and well at the workplace. And then on the negative side, what is that costing? Whether it be higher education or a life sciences organization or even a K-12 school. In many cases, we forget that these are large employers as well, and this is significant. And I think all of this point being is that the awareness on this front is dramatically changed over the last 2 years. And now the economics can be more easily justified, and a lot more dollars can be allocated towards improving environments. So, and this is just kind of something that we always say, but you can't manage what you don't accurately measure. It seems like common sense, but again, sometimes it's often forgot in the built environment, and sometimes it's primarily driven by budgets or what some people I call devalue engineering, but a value engineering exercises sometimes forget about. And I think that again, really the good news here is that this is now seeing the total impact of all this is being seen. And as building managers, we really need to understand, what's coming in from the outside air, how well are our systems doing at reducing particles, as an example, from the outside air. Are other air quality mitigation strategies working, and how effectively are they? What was our baseline before? And with the things that we're doing today, are we controlling to the level we want to? As we see building cleaning practices significantly change, what impact is that having on the occupants of the building? And are we able to and willing to communicate these these new air quality data insights to a much larger constituent base? What we find at Aircuity a lot of times is surprising, having spent many years focused on facilities and building operators. When it comes to indoor air quality, there's a much broader range of constituents that are concerned and want access to that data. Environmental health and safety, infectious control, animal care professionals, researchers themselves, professors, and then there's the general population that want to understand, am I coming back to work and is the building healthy? And we're starting to see and be directly involved in communicating that air quality data in many varieties to a much larger constituent base. And I think that's a very important dynamic and change that we're seeing occur. So I'm going to go super quick through our platform, and I'm just going to really sum it up that what we try to do at Aircuity is provide a sustained, accurate indoor air quality measurement of all the primary concerns that were outlined in the previous slide. In particular, I'm going to skip over this video, hopefully. And just the platform is meant to reliably, accurately measure CO, small particles, TVOCs, CO, CO2, and communicate that to the building automation system for dynamically controlling the ventilation. And we were able to do that in a life cycle cost approach, and much more. If you look at the life cycle cost of that whole solution in a better life cycle cost approach for the built environment, and also to not have another deferred maintenance item rise for our customers. So we solve that through an insurance services program. And we also take all that data to the cloud and then repurpose it back for the various constituents that I mentioned previously. So the solution, again, you can find out more on our website for Aircuity, and there's the detected parameters. And as I mentioned several times, obviously with particulates large and small, something that's very difficult to do that we've been doing for over 20 years. And it's becoming much, much more of a concern for all the reasons mentioned in the built environment. Skip through some of these slides for that. That platform has been just so for the record, just this new construction and retrofit. We do a lot more retrofit projects than we do new construction by number. Dollars wise, obviously some of the new construction projects can be quite large. But it's been a proven concept for well over 14 years now, and all across the globe. And so I think I would just leave it to say that you can learn more and find out more from our website. But truth be told, I think that the activity that we started a long time ago from in critical environments, kind of one of our sayings here is now all environments are considered critical. And so that when we talk to a K-12 school or higher education or life sciences customer, they're all thinking about the same things. And the concept of this presentation about efficiency, net zero, sustainable solutions, and having a really good high quality environment, they're all universal. And so I do believe that all the built environment now needs to be considered critical environments in terms of health, wellness, and safety, protecting the occupants. So, and that certainly was a lesson that we learned from COVID, but also our challenges remain in the industry. Relative humidity is known to be much better in the 40 to 60 range, and Dr. Stephanie Taylor's got some great insight on that. But how do we do that, and can we do it in the built environment? Obviously, that's a big challenge. If we are deploying some other air cleaning strategy, improving filtration, or looking at some other technology, is it working, and how effectively is it working? Ventilation, how do we change our sequence of operations when outside air conditions may change to the worse, to a detriment? If we have 100% outside air systems, do we want to start designing some recirc, which we're starting to see, some recircability from those systems? Is my filtration working, and how well? And obviously there's a lot of benefits to the fault detection and trending for indoor air quality, where you may have an event lasting over longer period of time, and you really wanted to address that, whether it be from an energy perspective or an indoor air quality perspective. And then what building certifications am I trying to achieve, and what do I need in order to do that? We personally were recently involved in a well certification, and as many of you may know, indoor air quality, the air side of well is the largest most impactful measure to consider. So, and as I just previewed, we're really starting to see a lot more people pay attention to to all this as it relates to the health and wellness of occupants in these. So, go to the next slide here. This was a lesson from over the last 2 years that we all learned in terms of small particles and as it relates to humidity, but also as it relates to the importance of particulate control. How do we, you're seeing improved filtration, many customers going from MERV 8 up to MERV 13, 14, and also just having an understanding of what's happening outside and what's happening inside. This impacts directly really the efficacy of the indoor environment in terms of health and wellness. And so I think it's been clear now that this is something that should be measured and understood much more effectively than previously up to this point. And this is a slide from Stephanie Towers. You can look there and you can find out a lot more if you've never seen her 40 to 60 website. And you can see the impact of in the ranges of 40 to 60, how much better environments are. But again, I personally know how difficult that is to do in many buildings. So what other things are customers going to be looking at these really dry points of the season when infection rates can be much more in the 70 to 80% range when you're looking at these drier times. So filtration effectiveness is something we've all been focused on. I think we've had previous presentations on. We are seeing universally all customers adopt to that. Sometimes this does take real hardware changes. So not all, you can't just many times go from MERV 8 to a MERV 14 or 15 filter just by switching out the filter itself. Some modifications are being done. So many times this is a really good, effective step one, phase one improvement. And I'm seeing a lot of clients do this, and we're helping a lot of clients understand how impactful that was and what the impact was. In fact, I think we're going to have a slide coming up here about particulate. So for Memorial Sloan Kettering in New York City, we do a lot of this, and for many other healthcare organizations, we're really measuring outside air, supply air, and return air, if they have return air systems, looking at particulate levels and understanding how effective whatever strategy they're implementing is, and also helping them with sequence of operation changes as a result. So there's been many successful case studies there. And also this goes down to the room level. So at the room level is where are events happening, and can DCV effectively help that particular room, and what other strategies may somebody want to look at to mitigate or to improve that area in the building. So some quick case studies, and I think this is going to be a wrap and on time. So University of California, Irvine was a case study. A customer we started working with in 2007. It's a great case study for a university that took a holistic approach, starting with proving all of what they deemed the smart lab essentials would be. And these are the elements of this. I'm not going to go through each one of these, but I will tell you that there's an unbelievable amount of data on their website about the smart lab. You look up UCI, University of California, Irvine Smart Lab Program, incredible information on there. And I think the story here is just one that when you look at, when I say Aircuity, but let's just talk about demand-based control ventilation. When you look at that, it really impacts the system pressure. It impacts the energy efficiency related to ventilation. It impacts many other systems. And ultimately, it's massive energy and savings. And one of the neatest parts about the UCI story is that they actually now lead all UC schools with the least amount of health and safety events across their campus. And they also have stated almost $100 million of total economic impact. If you look at the growth of the system, the school, and how much they would have had to increase their supply systems and cost and all sorts of other costs, they totally deemed that this program has saved, in the $100 million range. They set out to reduce their energy goal usage on campus by 50%, and they were across 17 buildings, and they were able to actually achieve 61% annual energy reduction, honored by the Department of Energy several times. And it's just been I would say, the beacon of higher education in terms of what impact this has. They are now stepping up to a full net zero goal by 2025, I think they're shooting for. And obviously they're on a really good path to get there. They have since educated and trained probably over 500 other institutions on this program and on this strategy. And we've seen in higher ed almost 250 or so adopt the strategy in some form or another, and or on a path to do it at a much higher rate. So great success story there. And I think this is, you can see this has been happening. One of the key elements to what's happening today is, do we continue to wait? Does this need to be more proven out? And I think what we're witnessing now is an absolute, the binary. It's a step change in terms of activity in the built environment of really people taking this as serious as they need to finally, thankfully for all of us. And whether ESG is driving that, or whether it's the penalties that are looming, or whether it's the just the cultural change of organizations saying, we know this works, we know the technology is there, we kind of have a really good roadmap on how to do this. Let's get serious and get on a path to do this. Climate action plans that are being published today are really pointing out at a much better roadmap for what's going to happen over the next 5 to 6 to 7 years across a portfolio or a platform of buildings on a campus, let's say. And we're seeing a lot of people take action on that. So I remain really bullish, and this is a story that's mostly good, that the technology exists and the impact is real and it's knowable. And I think it's time to get going on this for all of us. Another good case study is, this is a really highly efficient building at Apple's headquarters that we were involved in, over 3 million square feet, and very complicated ventilation system. And I talked about Memorial Sloan Kettering earlier. If you look at this particular project, they really leverage utility incentives on a $7.2 million project. They got $3.8 million. It won the Energy Project of the Year. We have since done this across the whole entire Memorial Sloan Kettering campus. They get lots of outside air and indoor air quality parameters. And this is just one way that they typically look at constantly monitoring the outdoor air particle levels and seeing how effective their filtration is actually working. And if it's not, they have filter bypass. If they want to improve or upgrade filtration, what effective change is that actually happening? So they're using a data-driven approach. And this project received, economically incredible for the institution, and it actually resulted in almost a 2 megawatt reduction in this campus. So when you look at going to net zero, again, the story is that these ventilation management projects, can be the single best and most effective way to get there as we start to tackle the HVAC use in buildings. And just I think oftentimes we get thought about, and it says, okay, well, Apple's doing this, or Memorial Sloan Kettering's doing this, they have money. We've over 150 school districts around the country, probably been involved in more net zero projects around the world than anyone I know of. And I will say that we're seeing a lot more of these types of projects where public institutions are driving towards net zero. And we're on our second project with the school district. The first one was net zero, and the next one's near net zero. And they actually are using air quality data for all of the teachers and are also broadcasting the IEQ data publicly. So this is not just a large institutional issue. This is an everybody issue. And I think eventually it's even going to come to we see it in owner-occupied commercial real estate like an Apple or a Google, and we're involved in those projects very often. But I will say we're even starting to see it in more real estate investment trusts, et cetera, who have multi-tenant sites, because really it's going to be demanded publicly for those people that are occupying those buildings. So the last slide I'll talk about today is just really a roadmap. Skip over this slide and talk about that. And this is also published by somebody else, but I just want to highlight again the importance of this. This is again a WSP slide. They're kind of repurposing here, but I think a roadmap to net zero starts with energy efficiency, and you can kind of see it going to electrification of the buildings. Obviously, you're going to look at embodied carbon if it's a new construction project, and the use of the carbon for what's actually in the building, and then on-site PV and wind, et cetera, microgrids, and then the clean energy of the offsite and the grid. But in everything I've said this earlier, but the most important part is really starting with the most energy efficient building you possibly can get, because that's going to affect the sizing and the spend on all this stuff down the road. So we have to get buildings much more efficient, and we all know on this call that there's a huge opportunity to do that. And so we see, and both in the existing built environment, but also in new buildings that are coming out. So I think there's a path here, and more often than not, me personally and our company, but I think many on this call are going to be involved on the upfront side of this, is getting buildings much more efficient and getting ready for the future of more electrified buildings and the other technologies that are going to go in to get to net zero, but while providing healthy and safe environments. We can't do both. And we say this all the time at Aircuity, but it's really not about a balance, because that maybe conveys that what we really need to do is optimize both. We need to optimize the efficiency and sustainability, but we also need to absolutely optimize the health and wellness. And again, there is a really good proof points historically, and it's really just about more mass adoption of this in the built environment. And again, I remain really excited and bullish about that in the future. I think it's going to be a really exciting next couple of years as we talk about all this. So in the end of the day, I think, that's the presentation, but, for the clients we work with, we're really looking at just having them commit to their goals, start the process, assess their opportunity, and leverage the knowledge and the success stories that are already out there by talking to some of not only the case studies I gave already, but obviously many of the customers that you guys know. So this can be done. It can be done well, and I'm really excited about the future for all of us to make this happen.
Thanks, Dan. That was a great and incredibly insightful presentation. Anybody who has a question, there's a Q&A button down the bottom. Please put your question in there. And I love the quote that you kind of had there, nearly kind of ended on it, was it really sums up where I think all of us are in the intelligent building space, is mass adoption in the built environment. That is kind of the goal for everybody. But I'll say, man, you had some very compelling numbers in your presentation. A 2 megawatt reduction on a building, 61% annual energy reduction. Just absolutely, certainly a super compelling story. Thank you for sharing it with us. And if there's anything we can do to help with mass adoption, I think you have all of our ears.
Thank you. And happy to take any questions offline as well.
Yeah, it looks like I think that we're up against the clock as well. So anybody who has questions, certainly, I believe your contact info has been circulated. If not, then we can get it through Greg. We have All right, we hit one question before we go. Can you discuss the extra energy when upgrading to MERV 13, as we have a smart filter that does not use extra energy?
Yeah, I mean, increase in pressure drops has to be understood and assessed. And the good news is when you UCI talks about this all the time. They increased their filtration standards a while ago, well before COVID actually. But by managing ventilation and reducing the amount of ventilation, those two things will offset. So again, when you couple this, when you look at a holistic strategy, which I think also should be a point here, is you're not looking at one thing individually like dynamic control ventilation, but when you look at near net zero or net zero, you look at improving filtration, you look at indoor air quality, you look at building electrification, you need to take all of that. And what the case studies have shown us is that provides a much more energy efficient building. It provides a much better life cycle cost. And it can be done as economically first cost in many cases, because you're getting the benefit of right sizing systems, the concept of diversity of design, et cetera. So that particular issue is really balanced out with the fact that if you are improving if you're improving your filtration, you also need to look to try to capture the benefit of dynamically controlling ventilation, so you're not moving a bunch of air unnecessarily through a building. So the energy cost should actually be a net savings in many cases.
Thanks. If we want to start conversations with an end user, a building owner, a builder, who are we looking to talk to? Is this a CEO, CFO conversation? Is it starting with facilities, IT? Where do we go to just to begin conversation before making an introduction to you?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, it's amazing how much success we have. The facilities people want to save energy many times, and they look to get a lot of other deferred maintenance and systems, et cetera, upgraded improvement. When we started talking to Memorial Sloan Kettering on that particular project, they ended up getting a whole new control system, new exhaust fan control, and a rebalancing and recommissioning of their entire system, all as part of that project. So I said many times in this presentation to look at the deferred maintenance, and obviously that's a big concern of facilities and facilities management. What's really cool a lot of times is in this new world, these issues are at the C-suite, and we are very successful a lot of times through the Office of Sustainability, through C-suite individuals themselves that are trying to understand, address, and communicate what they're doing about all these issues. And so I think it's a new frontier for us in the facilities world, because you're just seeing a lot of different constituents drive this. We have champions and supporters that are environmental health and safety, infectious control, animal researchers in a lot of these large institutions that have a really strong voice. And so I'm seeing it come from everywhere. And I know that's not the best answer, but I will say that sustainability and C-suite, I wouldn't shy away from in terms of communicating and outreach. And more often than not, I'd say we've had the most success with sustainability, not as a buyer, so to speak, but as a key influencer. We should all note from the facilities world that we live and breathe in that those personnel in those spaces have a much stronger voice today than they did previously. And I think it's our job to understand, the total impact that we can have, and to monetize that properly, communicate that to customers. It's not just about the simple payback of an energy project. It's about the total cost of what a healthy building delivers for that customer. And once you communicate that, you do get the attention of much higher influencers.
Awesome. Well, thanks for that answer. I'll be honest with you, Dan, here's what I took out of that. Anyone who will listen. But ideally sustainability or the C-suite.
Yeah, it's true, but it's a higher level concern today. So that's
sure, absolutely.
Also, yeah.
And that point was definitely well driven in and well taken. On behalf of everybody, we are at the end of our time. Thank you so much for spending the time with us. I look forward to kind of following the company and seeing how things go, and perhaps someday maybe being on a project together.
That would be great. Thank you so much.
All right.
And Dan, is it okay if we share your contact information
Absolutely,
with the group?
100%, always.
Okay, so everyone will share that out with the minutes, and also the recording and the slide deck will be posted on the website as well. I think this next one is yourself, Ken.
Ken may just be getting off the other meeting. He should be joining in a minute.
Keep it here there.
I am right here, Greg.
Oh, there
Thank
you go.
very much. I'm Ken Wax. I chair the White Papers Subcommittee for the Intelligent Buildings Council, and for almost 10 years, we've been producing original papers voluntarily offered by members of this committee for consideration by the White Papers Review Committee and for submission to the CABA library. We've got an impressive number of original papers we've generated, and I'm here to review the status over the past few months. We completed a paper which you see on the screen entitled Bipolar Ionization and its Contribution to Smart and Safe Buildings. The lead author, Rajiv Sahai of Pure Air Control Services, Inc. The paper has been completed. It's under final review and approval. And it was just in the past 10 days or so that those of us on the review committee have gone over it and provided our final comments. I can tell you this is a very thorough paper, and you'll see it soon in the library. Another completed paper is part 2 of the commercialization of Li-Fi. That's light fidelity. It's using light like Wi-Fi uses high frequency radio signals. Li-Fi uses modulated light either in the infrared or the visible spectrum. The particular advantage of Li-Fi is that the signal is confined to the locations that can actually see the light, so that if you want to have a private version of Wi-Fi totally confined within a closed room, it's very possible with Li-Fi. This project and part 1 was led by Professor J.B. Grove of Wharton Junior College, together with the people you see on the screen here who helped contribute to this paper. Professor Grove is planning part 3 in this series. Part 1 was an introduction that was completed earlier, and this new paper, part 2, the commercialization of Li-Fi. Again, we all reviewed it on the committee, and it's now completed and posted. What we have in progress now is part 2 of the impacts of automated shading in buildings, in the building projects. For the introduction, part 1 was very well received. Abhijit Pandey from TRC Energy Services is the chair of the working group, and we're expecting completion soon. The next in progress paper is the fire alarm systems in buildings. This is being led by Suzanne Alfano of the Canadian Fire Alarm Association. We're hoping to see the paper at the end of November. So that's another work in progress. Continuing, we have architecting intelligent, self-learning, adaptive, smart campus framework for smart cities. Krishnamurthy Raman from Navtat Solutions is chairing this. We don't have the completion date yet, but this is a relatively new paper that's been proposed, and we're looking forward on the committee to seeing it and then making it available to IBC and the general CABA membership. All CABA papers are available at caba.org/whitepapers, as you see on the screen. These nicely complement the papers in the that the CABA Information Council has put into the library of papers that we cull from the public domain. So we offer CABA members a nice balance between papers developed on the outside and papers developed by the CABA councils, both the intelligent buildings and the connected home councils produce original white papers. So Greg, thank you very much for the opportunity to address the IBC, bring them up to date on our white papers production.
Ken,
Right.
is the last paper just being written by that NAVIT person or on Smart Cities, or is that a group effort?
Greg, do you have more details? Because this is the newest paper in the hopper.
Well, I could reach out. It's just that Erie and I are working on Smart Cities, and so we're happy to contribute if possible.
Yeah,
So
they suggested on smart cities. Originally, it was a smart campus paper, and then this was just on he proposed smart cities. But I believe there's no working group that there is right now, but there's one looking to form shortly.
I am involved with smart cities internationally, and I would just caution everyone, smart cities is a very ill-defined term. It can cover a whole range of issues, and we need to be mindful that the mission of CABA is to focus on homes and buildings. If we change our scope to include smart cities, we will be expanding into a relatively ill-defined area.
I
not
agree.
that
I'm just saying that I use that, but self-learning and adaptive and intelligence are also very undefined. But okay,
I'm surprised we don't have artificial intelligence thrown in here at the same time. But these are the words of our era.
well, we will review these papers. Someone definitely can write it on their own. We appreciate that because that's really hard in many cases.
And I wanted to make a concluding comment. As I've reviewed some of the papers, I have found some of them very thoroughly researched, but very technical. I would ask all the authors of white papers to remember that the CABA audience comes with a lot of different experiences. We have some people involved in the investment side of buildings, some people involved with the financing, with the management, and not everyone here is an engineer. So when you're writing a white paper that has a lot of technical details, charts, formulas, equations, please consider putting it in an appendix and make sure that you put all your problem statements, your conclusions, your examples in the body, and then reference the technical details in the appendix. But to introduce the paper and spend 20 pages on technology, and then at the very end draw conclusions, you run the risk of losing non-technical readers. And even technical readers have a lot on their plate and may not want to wade through all the equations. So Greg and I and various committee members have been asking the lead authors to structure their papers so that there is as much prose up front with the technology at the back. Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, Ken. And to your point on the smart cities, we always look at it at the lens of the building within the city, as opposed to the city infrastructure as a whole.
Good point. Any other questions on that? We good? All right, we're going to move on to new business. We're going to the first item under new business is health assurance, and we're going to hear from Mark Calvajo and Dan Isaacs to talk a little bit more about that. You guys on?
We are on. Hello.
We are on. Yes, sir.
Perfect.
How's everybody doing?
All good.
All right.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, sounds good.
Yes.
Okay, great. No, I was just going to update this slide, but that's okay. So my name is Dan Isaacs. I'm a technical director, actually on the advisory board for both Engager and DMM, being a integration solutions organization, system engineering company. Founder is Mark Carvalho. Mark, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Hello, I'm Mark Cavallo, and I've been involved with energy and sustainability probably for 25, 30 years. My business partner was a guy who actually wrote Energy Star for the Department of Energy. And I work a lot with the department and in the energy and different things like that. And what Aircuity was talking about energy reduction and sustainability is something that I've been involved with for almost 25 years, working with John.
Go ahead.
Energy Star.
Great. Thanks, Mark. So if you want to advance the slide, actually, I had a couple revisions, but that's okay. Maybe we can, I'll share my screen afterwards. But really what we're talking about here is a portfolio of products that are really targeted towards both the health assurance of buildings inside and out. And this is one example of one of those technologies that we are partnered with called Aris Drone Service. And you can see here they cover not only 3D mapping, but also the sanitization aspects, as I talked about, indoor and outdoor. And then the ability to do power and pressure wash to be able to, using other technologies, if you go forward one more slide, that will provide that health assurance. And this is using, again, another capability here in terms of coding for this. And you can see here some of the test results. You can see some of the client listing around this. So this is a product. Mark, you want to talk a little bit about the background on this, since you are the chemist and the expert in that area?
Yeah, so basically this technology was invented years ago, and after years of research and refining, we have turned it into more using water as a carrier instead of using alcohol and different toxic chemicals to apply the materials. As you can see on this bus here, 8,000 germs per square inch is before the treatment. After 1 hour, it went down to under 10 germs per square inch. So basically, the technology it reacts, it breaks down any volatiles, any bacteria, any germs or viruses. And the next slide will show you the explanation of how the technology works. And these are all the different germs and viruses that we can take care of utilizing our technology. The drone will also be doing the app in certain areas of the process. We'll also be using electrostatic sprayers, and we'll be using infrared lights and different type of technologies like that to make sure that it is applied and attached to the surface, and so we can get coverage of the product when it's applied on surfaces. When Aircuity was talking about air quality and different things like that, as we know, people are cleaning buildings today with different chemicals, different disinfectants. Those things are also releasing volatiles in the air that's also staying in your vapor barrier and humidity, that causing an HVAC system to have to be turned on more often because people are using chemicals and they're doing it so many times per day. Our treatment, we put it on, and every 30 days, we come back and retreat it. And since it's a water-based tech, nothing is going into your vapor barrier. So that's a way we could control some of the air quality. It's like eliminating harsh chemical use in buildings that actually causing more sick building syndrome than anything else, besides the mixture of people sneezing, coughing, different things like that. And then also issue with HVAC, with your cooling towers and your boilers, where they're using chemicals to treat those areas. And we also have a technology to eliminate chemicals that will also eliminate scaling and buildup on your boilers and your cooling towers, which is a big problem that we're finding about Legionnaires, other issues that's happening through your ventilation. So some of these technologies that we deal with is to make the building a healthy building from using technologies. Dan, you want to show them the reaction of the product, how it works, and the explanation?
Yeah, why don't you go back up one slide? Sorry, I don't know if can you click on the image if you're in full screen or presentation mode, because there is a video that will launch once you select that. I'm not sure how the audio will work, but you can walk through some of that. And if that doesn't work, there we go. Perfect.
And we just got the EPA registration number. We were approved.
You can go full screen.
July 2nd, we got the EPA registration number with all the claims of what we can say.
Great. And will the audio work on this as well? Perfect.
In Zoom, you have to enable the audio on the screen. Go back to share screen and enable audio.
Right.
Yeah, I'd also add
the audio is not coming through.
Well, we could read it. Maybe you can explain the difference between cleaning surfaces with UV lights and other technologies, as well as cleaning them every 30 days.
Okay, UV lights is just instant. It's not really, it's just doing the instant, but you got to keep on coming back. If somebody touch surfaces or whatever, or any of the volatiles in the air that drops in your surface, somebody's got to come back and use the UV light.
Right.
Okay. I've been using UV lights because the guy who owned American Ultraviolet died. And I've been working with UV lights for 20 years in Vegas and MGM Grand and all these things, but we realized that UV, it's just a swan, or you have UV robots. That's just doing an instant kill. I was perpetuating the mitigation of any germs or viruses.
No, I agree. I'm just trying to understand the technologies, including non-chemical water treatment. We're doing that as well. Thank you.
Yes. Oh, sorry, the video didn't, you can hear, but it actually put out these spheres that actually breaks down the viruses through our layers of the technology. And you could see everything we could take care of right here, because we're not just talking coronavirus, we're talking about all the different viruses and bacteria that affects any buildings or any surfaces, from the hotels to schools, to any type of buildings, on anyone touching surfaces or anything like that. We could eliminate that virus from migrating. For some reason, I don't know why the video is not doing what it's going to do now.
We might just continue and we can share it later on.
Yeah, we can share the slide with everybody. It's no problem.
Yeah, we'll put the link in there.
Okay.
Okay, so that's one of the technologies. As Mark was pointing out again, that this is water-based. If you go to the next slide, you'll see here again, similar approach. You can see some of the clients that are using this in terms of being able, this is another coating, and it's actually allowing you through using light to actually not only clean, but purify the air. And this is another chemical reaction that is resulted. And this is from the same, this company partnered with is Aircuity. And you can see who's been using that in those different areas.
So,
also looking at, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. So through light reaction, we're talking about indoors and outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
One of the big issues with the outdoors is the soot buildup, the mold, the funguses, different things that builds up on the outside of the building through industrial pollution, exhaust fumes, different things that happens within the areas of the cities, right? So with our product, it keeps the buildings cleaner longer, but it also is an air purification system. For example, on the slide deck next to it, we did an 8,000 square meter soccer field. And when we tested the air quality of that soccer field, it was equal to 20 hectares of trees in a forest of clean air quality. So we're looking at the buildings, interior and exterior, using light reaction to create air purification, which is very important today because now it also become a carbon reduction building, and the building will perform better. We also do it under roofing, because roofing also, like white roofing, Title 24. And I've been involved with Carlisle Energy and Versico and the whole roofing industry for a long time, because we were doing energy roofing solutions and solar ready. But one of the big issues is with all the soluble layer buildup and all those different aspects, the roof don't perform as much as when we first installed because of all the soluble layer buildup. By putting our coating on the roofing, we increase the performance of the roofing to stop the heat gain coming into the building and keep the roof clean along. Just like the outside, we could also stop some of the energy loss and also keep the building cleaner longer. And with the interior, through light reaction, actually will help. Again, not only are we treating the hard surfaces with the prior product, we're treating the wall surfaces together with the titanium dioxide that will break down the humidity and the vapor barrier that will even keep cleaner longer. So that's, we bring in these type of technologies for increasing, the value of the air quality, the eliminating harsh chemical use in buildings that's affecting breaking down of buildings, of surfaces, and many different things that we see today by having harsh chemical use. I know a lot of companies now are having a lot of problems from all the electronics because people are saturating different things in the building that is affecting other aspects of equipment. So those are the type of things we're looking to mitigate, germs and viruses, keeping your air quality better. That will also keep your HEPA filters and different things performing better through the air quality. And I feel that we could also, by having these type of things, because one of the things I saw with GSA, they're talking about turning the air system on 3 hours before building occupancy instead of the 1 hour. So by having our system in place and teaming up with different affiliations, that they could just turn the air HVAC system on the 1 hour they normally do it, right? Speed of the motors, because right now they have to double the speed of the motor, which is also drawing energy, doing wear and tear of the equipment. So I feel what we're creating here is the whole ESG of reducing energy, reducing waste, and the building performing better and creating the health assurance of the buildings.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. I think if you go to the next slide, aligned with that is the validation of through NASA doing independent testing, but also being able to, I think we were talking about smart buildings earlier, and even smart cities. Well, leading to that, there's the sensors, there's the ability to understand what is happening inside the building. So using air quality monitoring systems, being able to understand what is the composition in terms of the particulates that are making up that the air in that specific either room and or area of the building of most interest, and being able to report that and understand that. And then through technologies such as you saw with Purity, being able to actually enrich the air and purify the air through sunlight. So these are, again, talking about that portfolio of technologies for healthy buildings. And continue the next slide, please. You see that also manifested here in actual systems. And this is a high capacity system here that's leveraging, again, that same technology and being able to ensure the purity within the rooms, within the buildings themselves. And so here you can see returning the clean air into the indoor environment. So air purification systems using this. Next slide. and then looking that across the different area in terms of the value that's provided, the benefits. Here you can see in terms of looking at that and what are those different parameters and how those parameters are measured. As I said, a lot of this has been validated third party by actual examples and testing from that standpoint. And then on the next slide, you can see working very collaboration, working together with Underwriter Laboratories. So we have a working relationship in this area along these lines, and they have a big effort around their healthy building program and sustainability. Sorry, Mark, you wanted to state something?
No, you're perfectly fine. That's great.
Excellent. And as part of the Digital Twin Consortium, so putting on my other hat as the CTO for the Digital Twin Consortium, who we have a liaison with CABA, to be able to identify opportunities and areas to collaborate and work on either joint white papers or programs, we have what we are now bringing out as a technology showcase to demonstrate this and working with some of our members. This one example is around using buildings as batteries to reduce the carbon footprint by using alternative resources to generate the electricity to power the buildings, but also to use a digital twin to actively manage that from a perspective of load balancing and understanding different scenarios that might occur. So it's not just for modeling and predicting what might happen based on historical or what we call event intelligence and situational awareness that is coming from the sensors and all the data from the actual, but being able to predict the future through that and run these what if scenarios, but actually have those scenarios already preset based on the conditions, the thresholds, the data, the analysis, and being able to use a digital twin to actively manage and control the systems in the event of those thresholds being reached or some type of a scenario that plays out. And we've seen this across the board in many different applications. And we have as I said, a technology showcase, an initiative around that for buildings as batteries, starting out in New York City. The engagement is there using the Brooklyn Naval Shipyard to be able to create this mass customization center for the digital twins to be able to then be implemented and looked at from the standpoint of active management of the buildings as batteries for a certain area appropriately. Battery Park, some buildings have already been identified in Battery Park in New York. But this extends even beyond that. I think there was the topic about smart cities. This extends even beyond that into the areas of the 2030 district, which are all of the major cities in North America. And through our membership and some of our partners and alliances we have, we're engaged with many different areas there. One of the organizations is called City Zenith, and they're also a member of the World Health Economic Forum. So if you're interested in getting involved in that, please take a look at our website, digitaltwinconsortium.org. You can see a lot of this information here, as well as feel free to reach out to myself at the consortium.
Great. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate that. That was a great update, and definitely appreciate it. Please reach out to the guys here if you have any questions.
This is David.
Thank you very much.
We're just on the digital consortium and energy and buildings. We're working with the grid connected energy and buildings in District 2030. A lot of the trade-offs, as Aircuity showed, is do we get clean air? Do we get net zero? How are these trade-offs made? So I'd like to reach out to you and see if we can collaborate on this. Thanks.
No problems.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely. I think a
I was-
combination of areas. Go
Yeah,
ahead, Mark.
Dan, I was going through your presentation. It's amazing what you're doing, you know. Dan Deal, that is.
All right,
Yeah, I
well,
think
great.
there's some great opportunities relative to what we saw within within that, as well as I believe that was David that was speaking. Certainly like to follow up with you, David, in terms of those different areas and see
Oh.
how we'll be able to collaborate.
We were just on with the GWAC conference at the same time in terms of, grid-wise architecture council and how do we make buildings grid enabled with ASHRAE. So clearly it's having worked on demand response, and many of the CABA members are experts in the control of the energy in the buildings, but how do we bring in the healthy buildings and now the smart buildings?
Exactly. We got to start with the healthy buildings, because if the buildings is healthy, then everybody will make it smarter, because they will make sure that the building is healthy, and we control pretty much the energy efficiency of the buildings. Also mapping the occupancy of the buildings, of people when to turn the HVAC on, when to turn the heaters on. All of these different things is part of what we're doing also.
Exactly. One of the mechanisms that we're doing is we're actually within the consortium, within the working groups, we create pilot programs around this. And then those pilot programs involve different members, different areas. And then from that, we expand that and incubate it within the working group, and then extend that out to the broader membership. And then we start to publish. We either do blogs, webinars, we bring that out to the public and to communities of like interest, and that gets the attention. And then we start moving from there. So certainly like to talk further with you on that.
If I could add, just in terms of your drones, we are seeing the drone can take a thermography of the building.
Yes.
Absolutely.
In the existing buildings, as was pointed out, we've changed the lighting, and now it's all about HVAC. And it's all about the leakage of the buildings and the things that we don't even know are there that are causing the unhealthy issues.
Exactly.
So using the drones, we have thermography, we can see where the leaks are, we can see where the mold's growing, and then we could correct them, including the existing windows. I mean, we've now got triple pane windows, we've got interior Energy Star windows, we've got acrylic panels. If we don't fix the envelope of the building, we're never going to get to net zero.
No, you won't. And I was a member of the National Glass Association. So my background, I created products to seal glass, to stop the hard water corrosion build up on glass and granite and marble. So National Kitchen and Bath, the Marble Institute of America, the US Green Building Council. I've been a member of all of those for years. The hospitality, the HD, the hospitality and design. And I was going into MGM and showing them the issues they were having. But the other thing is with what we create, we're also going to create a whole continuous education program, because once we go in there and come back every 30 days and treat it, we have a company called Care that do the application for us, and they've been around for 40 years. They were my client when I had my application company. But they will do the application together with the drone company. So now we can do the verification and certification of that building, to say that building was treated, it's healthy. Here's the air quality that we tested the air quality, we checked the volatiles. I was talking to a gentleman recently, and the application of a building. When the meter was checking, they were reading formaldehyde. So he asked the client, "What are you guys doing here?" It turns out the wipes they were using on the surfaces was actually putting out into the vapor a formaldehyde reading in the air quality meter. Some of the things we'll go in and do is to make sure the surfaces are protected, the air quality has been metered and tested and qualified that, yes, that building is that, but with the continuous education is for the janitorial people who work in those buildings to continuously treat the buildings and how to maintain what we did. So they could, so the continuous education is a big program. One of the product we didn't show, we have a lighting fixture that has the titanium dioxide in it also, that using less energy in our lighting fixture, but actually through the light will also help air purification.
Yeah, we're running out of time. Thank you.
All right, guys. Yeah, we're going to keep moving on here. Definitely appreciate that. Definitely keep collaborating after the fact for sure.
Yes, for sure. Thank you, Greg, and thank you, everyone. I really appreciate everyone.
All right, other new business.
Yeah, thanks a lot, everybody.
In just interest of time, just make sure you get it over to Greg or myself. Any agenda items or new business you want to add to the next agenda or the next IBC webinar, new keynote ideas, new white paper ideas, any of those. So make sure you get those over to Greg or myself, and we'll make sure they get added to the agenda.
Thank you.
And look, let's move forward with announcements. What's coming up? Robert, Jan, buddy?
Yeah, I think Robert said he couldn't make it, but I'll be really brief here. It's just past events and some upcoming events. So obviously, we had the Green Build. We weren't able to attend this year, and upcoming events here are Light Fair, where CABA is actually sending a couple staff to a Light Fair. We're sending a staff to the Bixie event and the Builder Show and HR. You'll see the dates there. We're actually hosting a board meeting at AHR, and we're doing 4 1-hour sessions at an event on one or possibly even 2 days, and then there's real comments as well this year. So these are some of the upcoming events in the intelligent building space. This is not an exhaustive list, but these are some of the key ones that the CABA and CABA members attend. With that, I think for the sake of time, I'll just pass it off to you, Brian, to close the meeting. Thanks.
Yes, appreciate everybody being here. Good information shared today for sure, and definitely appreciate your time. And we'll set the next one up for November, December timeframe here before we end of the year. So be looking for the announcement for the next one. And again, let us know of any topics you want to cover. So appreciate everybody, and hope you have a great day. Thank you.